Number 26, Veteran Claims Ambush. Number 26. 26, 27, 28, and 29 are going to be a sequence of interrelated videos. I do these so you can watch them on your smartphone. And as usual, my voice will not hold up, but I will edit in the camera. Okay, you've seen this before. This is the ambush. You are walking into it. What's over here? What's over here? What's on the treetops? You have no idea. And we're going to see specific language again that you will not understand. We're going to see interrelated usages of law, which you will not understand. And lawyers, sit up and pay attention to this, because you're going to learn that in this ambush, the discovery rights you are used to in state courts and in federal district courts under the federal rules of civil procedure do not exist in the VA system. And also, if you go into the Article 1 Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims, you will not get discovery. Further, while you are in this ambush, the general rule that comes out of the Article 3 Constitution, Article 3 court system, the general rule is that federal employees are to be believed when they act in the ordinary course of their official duties. You can replay that slowly. That is the rule. However, in a U.S. District Court, the Article 3 court system, you are entitled to discovery. When you are in the VA system or at the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims, you do not have discovery under the federal rules of civil procedure. So why are anonymous federal employees who have been exempted from discovery, why are they allowed to be held under the general rule that they are to be believed, since you can't directly impeach them without discovery? Huh? That's what creates this ambush, you see? One more time so everybody understands. You're in an ambush. You know it's there. Now, let's enhance this. Close your eyes. Now move forward. You see, under the federal rules of civil procedure, in a normal United States District Court, you are entitled to discovery. Therefore, if you've been dealing with federal employees who normally sign their own correspondence, etc., you know who you're dealing with. Nonetheless, you are entitled to discovery of whom was involved in your case working for the federal government. And then you are entitled to depositions, etc. None of that applies to the VA. And none of that applies to the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims. Congress knows exactly what it created. Congress knows exactly what it created. And they know that this federal court, the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims, doesn't have discovery, which is why they will not let you into a United States District Court on a veteran claim. You might get discovery. Hey, what's this? I present this so you can see they really don't care. Why did I bother putting this in the record? First of all, it's important to create a record. Listen to what I just said. It is important to create a record. Why is that? Because I'm going to open it up. I'm not going to be here forever. This is a legacy project, and I am going to try to open up my entire file to all veterans and all lawyers and anybody who's curious across the world in order to see how this organization works. In other words, I'm going to use the Privacy Act to say, at a certain point, it's no longer Privacy Act material. Open up everything to everybody. Okay? Well, medical conditions are reality. I've been around for a long time. My situation, the more I've researched it, came out of the same thing as the burn pits. I am a pre-burn pit vet. I was stationed at 4 different bases, and every bloody one of them was, well, I was drinking jet fuel and firefighting foam at all of them. Okay, so this is a notification. If you get a C&P exam notice today, this is what the actual email will look like. Okay? Take a look at this. It'll tell you where, when, and how. What it won't tell you is, this is a mill, this is all these people do, this is a vendor, that this is what they do, and somebody at the CAVC has said this is an adequate medical exam. I've shown you the adequate medical exams before. They are, forget about it. Even if the adequate medical exam says, yes, the veteran's right, they will disregard it and go shopping for another one, if they feel like it. Now, they hate me because of, gee, I don't know. You think they hate me because of that? Maybe. But this is what it looks like. Check your email. If they don't send it, that is proof that they did not give you notice. If they don't send it, do not erase email you get from the VA. Because they can lie about what they sent you or not. I showed you a case where they said, oh, we told this veteran and she didn't show up, so we had to close the file. Time for a break. I'm back. Okay, so where are we? I showed you this before. I just want to remind you one more time. This is what's known as the height of absurdity. If you go for a stroll in the Rocky Mountains, you will see some mountains here, some mountains there. They have a top. It's called a peak. And you might also say this is the height of that particular mountain. This is the VA playing with my head. And this is what they'll do to you. If they'll do it to me, they'll do it to you. So here's one from the Board of Veteran Appeals Administration. This is the one that says, yes, you did a Privacy Act, and it was about 2 specific letters on 2 specific days, and we have no idea. So that's it. Too bad for you. We don't know who wrote them. And even if we do, we're not going to tell you. So what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm trying to get them into a U.S. District Court. And if the Privacy Act works, great. So I go to the lawyers, listen up. You do Privacy Act, they basically do this in your face. And then you go to the Office of General Counsel. There is a subsection there. Read the Privacy Act. Every agency has to have one of these offices. You appeal it through them, and when they come back and say, yes, you have to, we don't know, or we won't tell you, or whatever it is, then you can go to a U.S. District Court. Oh my goodness, there might actually be discovery. So remember one more time, this is where we are. You have no discovery. Okay? You won't get discovery in the VA. You won't get discovery at the Board of Veteran Appeals. You will not get discovery at the Court of Appeals or Veterans Claims. And this is why. I've gone over this before. This is from the early, I think, lesson 1. I've shown this several times. Why do they get away with this? Why do they think like this? Read this, read this. Okay? There you go. Hey, we're going to reinvent the wheel. What does this mean? Short break. I'm back. Okay, we're going to reinvent the wheel here. Why is that? I'm going to show you in the next particular page. So you file, and VBA will make believe because Congress told them to do this, that they don't know anything. In the immortal words of the great philosophers of my youth, we don't know nothing. Every disease you can think of has been submitted to the VBA by veterans. Every disease, every slight variation of disease, etc., has been submitted. So they know all this. And they can use word search on their files. You can go to the Board of Veteran Appeals main website and you will see a word search opportunity. It's part of the page. They'll probably take it off after they see this. But you can research every disease and it will show you the BVA opinion for those diseases by year. VBA has the same ability. When you go digital, with digital comes word search ability. So if you file for something to do with a cranial nerve, like the vagus nerve, VBA knows how to look it up. Now, they could also look it up on Google, but you have to reinvent the wheel. See, they already know the parameters of the disease and how they've looked at it before and what they've been asked for before by the BVA. They know all this. They're going to make believe they don't. Congress created this thing. So you have to reinvent the wheel. There may have been last year 500 cases like yours on the same subject. You have to carry the day. You are in litigation with the federal government. This is a forum. There are walls. This is the ambush. This has been set up by Congress. VBA sits there and plays it out and plays ignorant. The people working there can't read scientific articles. They don't have to have any background in mathematics, chemistry, physics. The mathematics is probability, how studies of studies work. They don't have to have any of that background. Why do you think they're working there? So if you send them medical journal articles, you might as well be sending them articles about rocketry in Russian. They can't read them. Nor do they have any impulse to do it. So what happens is you reinvent the wheel, you file a claim, they deny it, it goes up to the BVA, they remand it, and the remand goes back to reinvent the wheel. Okay, I wanted to remind you of how corrupt can VBA be? Oh, take a look at this. Oh, oversight.gov report. Appeals data manipulation. I used to litigate in the area of securities. Basically, stocks, bonds, investments, big partnerships among investment houses, big brokerage stuff, organized crime coming into the brokerage business, all this kind of stuff. You say the word manipulation in the securities business and people go to jail. Not in the VA. Now, I showed you this before, the Roanoke office. I live in Virginia. I have dealt with the Roanoke office. Now, if I deal with anybody, it gets thrown onto the national work queue, where it bounces around the system and nobody works on it until I force them to work on it, because they despise me because I'm who I am. Short break. So you're not only going to reinvent the wheel, you're walking into a rigged casino with these guys. Guess who was one of those 278 that were improperly closed at that time? I've been dealing with these guys forever. I wonder why the IG looked at that. Isn't that strange? Gee, I wonder why the IG started looking at Roanoke office. Okay, so now, this is what this lecture is about. Okay, so this is a BVA case, Board of Veteran Appeals case. This is the citation. You can look this up. There it is, 19103143997. Hey, who is that? Well, it's a very familiar case to me. This is the one, I've talked about this in general. I wanted you to see this. You can look this up on the BVA website, word search. You pop that in and you'll see this in a clean copy. They got here we go. We go up to the BVA and the BVA says, boys, ladies, at VBA, you have a job to do. They won't do it, but here we go. We get a boost. We got nerve damage, EOE, right? I've been talking to you about this. 10% rating goes to 60% for this. I wonder why. Reinventing the wheel means getting EGDs, camera down the throat, all that kind of stuff. And you have extensive factual medical history, which VBA, of course, disregarded because, after all, they are making you reinvent the wheel, and they can disregard anything. It could be daylight, and they'll say, no, it's not. It could be nighttime, and they'll say, no, it's not. Because what's going to happen? So they got a TDIU remand, and the VBA refused to work it. It just refused. Just sat back and refused. And here, this Veterans Law judge is going to lay out the law. It's going to say how this works and all this kind of stuff. Oh, by the way, you see this combination of stuff? I have talked about this before. This is the result of being at 4, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, PCS assignments in the Air Force, where I didn't know it, but every time I had a cup of coffee or used the water fountain or the swimming pool or the shower, etc., or the gym and then the shower, I was drinking and bathing in jet fuel and firefighting chemicals. Yep, this goes way back. This is pre-burn pit stuff. Well, I mean, the mission comes first, mission comes second, and third, and you come fourth or fifth, if at all. And somebody had to do it, and I would do it all over again if they said to me, there is a chance that. Now, if they said to me, there is a certainty that you'll be poisoned, I would have said, why don't you just clean it up? But remember, you can be ordered to do things where the high probability is you will be killed. Statistically, before people are deployed, there is a number they expect where this number will be killed, this number will be very seriously busted up, which includes, poison and so forth. This number will be lightly busted up, and this number will be collateral types of death, injury, etc. It's just a number, and they have a book on this. But somebody has to do it. Okay, so here's an example of the VBA making up false claims. They throw everything in there. Why do they do that? To confuse the issue. Make it look like I'm the one doing this. Oh, I have to tell you one thing, because we're going to move on to something else. VBA refused to even recognize these constant demands about inflammation, nerve damage, and EOE. They demanded, because I had discussed them in detail, they demanded separate claims be filed. For those two, they were filed, and then they refused to work on them. So an appeal was filed at BVA, and BVA administration refused to file the things that I had sent them. It's called perfected service. This is the old Form 9 days. I filed perfected service. I could prove all that. How did I get this in front of this case? Well, I used a large caption, a consolidated caption. This is page 2. It goes through all this stuff. You can read it. I've underlined certain parts of it. The only reason I'm showing it to you is I'm still working on it. The board can find no basis for an ongoing appeal on the issue of service connection for irregular heartbeat or cold injury residuals of the fingertips, and those issues will not be addressed in the decision below. You're going to see this again. Now, they know about these other things, but because poisoning does strange things, and I was in strange places, but they can throw things into the mix that are not part of the appeal. And they'll do this all the time. And you're not allowed to see because you don't get discovery. You don't get discovery. You don't know what VBA is sending to the VB, what Victor Bravo Alpha is sending to the board. You are not allowed to see that. Congress knows what they created. It's an ex parte monster, and they know it. Okay. Short break. It was longer than I thought. Okay. So here, exams are useless. There you go. This is these idiotic conveyor belt C&P exams. They had a full record of my disabilities from the VA hospital, examinations, camera down the throat, samples taken, etc. Oh, no, no, no. VBA required multiple C&P exams, all of which were junk. Hello, how are you today? Nice to meet you. Well, that's all. See you later. Okay. Accordingly, it is found that a separate rating for inflammation in this case does not violate the provisions relating to pyramiding. Now, this is going to come up later on. This is going to come up later on. So keep this in mind. So I have a rating, or I have a finding of service connection for inflammation. Does not violate the provisions relating to pyramiding. Now, this raises an interesting question. Can Board of Veteran Appeals Veterans Law Judge B overrule Board of Veteran Appeals Veterans Law Judge A? Can B overrule A? Because I'm going to show you B later on. Now, you have this thing here called a Rice remand, and if you have a 60% rating, the board has to consider TDIU. And look, there's a 60% rating. Well, they refused to do it. So, predecisional error is nevertheless found. Case is remanded for the following action. They refused to do it. They sat back and refused to do it. A little bit worse when one VA employee tried to do it, a VBA employee. Remember, I've told you, I'm not talking about every one of them. when one VBA employee decided to try and do something, come to a decision about at least one part, supervisors came along and said, delete that decision, hide it. Supervisors came along and said, delete that decision. I found out because I did some other investigation. I had to go to the federal court, the Article 1 federal court, where I didn't get any discovery. I found out about a deletion. Federal court wasn't the least bit perturbed by that. Not the least bit. So there's more of the text. Okay? And I want you to, at this point, understand that you're going to get some compounding. And this is what an opinion looks like. Now we're going to go into this second opinion. This is going to be the end of this one, this number, 26. So I'm going to take a break first. Okay, now let's talk about something a little bit different. Another case. I want you to see the date, 08. That's too big. Let me get a different pointer. My letter opener. So we have here citation number. Okay, this goes back to 2008, a long time ago. And the reason I'm showing you this now is because when you get down here, talk about recreating the wheel, reinventing the wheel. Here is a VBA case for chronic pain syndrome due to intercostal nerve damage. Intercostal nerve damage. Now there is a difference between intercostal and cranial. Okay? Intercostal nerve damage. So here, just like in the prior case, Board of Veteran Appeals had to say, VBA, you blew this one. This veteran, right, in 2008, intercostal nerve damage. Have been met. VBA said no. Board of Veteran Appeals said yes. It's not a question. Maybe. VBA said no. BVA said yes. Now I want you to think. How could that be? Didn't VBA, Victor Bravo Alpha, didn't they do their job? How many other findings in 2008 were like this, or like the prior case I showed you in 2020, where there are findings and remands, etc.? So they know what an intercostal nerve is. What else do they know? The veteran's chronic pain syndrome due to the intercostal nerve damage, left, has been most recently evaluated under DC. Remember I told you there's a book, Diagnostic Code, and it lists just about every disease you can think of and the subsequent subsections of injury. Has been most recently evaluated under this code, which governs ratings of paralysis of the 11th cranial nerve. But under this line in the book, a 10% evaluation is assigned for moderate incomplete paralysis of this nerve. a 20% evaluation for severe incomplete paralysis of this nerve. And then they go into more, and they show you the CFR. I've explained what that is. So what does the VBA know? VBA knows what an intercostal nerve is. What else do they know? They know what a cranial nerve is. You see? Because they were working with it. And remember, this is the parameter. Working or seeking work. Working or seeking work. Cranial nerve. Intercostal nerve. That's it. Remember those words, because we're going to get back to them. Here's the rest of the decision if you want to take a look at it. Okay? It's chronic pain syndrome. And remember something. You go to places in military service that people don't go. You are exposed to all kinds of things. You may be bounced all over the place. And these damages, these injuries, may come back much later. Okay, so there, you've seen that. Continue down. The board finds, due to intercostal, more closely approximates severe incomplete paralysis of the nerve. See? Due to intercostal nerve damage. So, I'll just go through this. You can freeze this and read it if you want. It's not the reason I'm presenting it, because I'm going to present you in the next number with something far more interesting. We're going to be talking about what an actual decision looks like. Get your own lawyer. I am not your lawyer. This is an ambush that you're walking into and filing a claim, and you have to think this out. Foreign language, law. You don't have discovery rights. The VBA can make you reinvent the wheel when they know exactly what the problem is. They have a library full of these decisions they can easily get to. But you don't get discovery to find out that they're not doing anything but bouncing you around. They will still get their bonus. Nobody at Roanoke was fired because of what they did. Nobody at Roanoke was fired because of what they did. All right. Next one coming up. This was 27. Get your own lawyer.